Vice Sting. Sometimes bored housewives turn to places like Craigslist just to sell it. And then in every major American city, they walk in the corners. Call girls, go see older men just for money. And some of the swankiest parties in Hollywood have some of the kink. This week, we're in the great state of New Hampshire, where Vice Sting has the actual story of a husband and wife duo who pled guilty to running a multi-state prostitution ring. The ring ferried 27 innocent women from China and America to New England, where they were expected to participate in an illegal prostitution ring for their very survival. When men exchange sexual services with women, we call them by various names based upon where they take place. I mean, if it's over here, it's one name. If you move it on the other side of town, it's another name. But it's not the same name. Now, if that exchange occurred in the White House, or say the Capitol in Washington, D.C., we would call those women, interns, like Monica Lewinsky. Now, if that sexual service occurred on the streets of America, or the back alleys of America, in broad daylight, we refer to those women as prostitutes, as prostitution. Now, those categories I just named for you carry a higher visibility for those men who attempt to engage in them in broad daylight, or, as I said, in the White House if you're caught. But what about the other half of these equations, which occur away from the prying eyes of police and investigators? I'm referring to the escort and call girl services, which are separated closet beasts transacted in the shadows of just about any country you want to find in some of the most priciest hotels and communities you could ever imagine. Now, such is our next case, where a New Hampshire woman and her husband, who pled guilty to running a prostitution ring that brought 27 women. Now, they brought them to a northern New England town from China, and throughout the United States, but mostly from China, naive females. Now, there they would work and have these women work for as prostitutes with the promise of earning thousands of dollars. Always in the selling of the body, there's thousands of dollars. But not for the prostitutes, for the people who are the madams and the johns. But it would seem that promises was all these women had after arriving to that state. Authorities say that Mrs. de Rong Miao and her husband, Xiao Chao Li, now both 39 years of age, who lived in Concord, set up a prostitution ring using several rented houses and motels in the states of Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont. So all three, they was into it. They were running it. Now this included 2 homes in Portland at 5 Vero Street and another one at 977 Brighton Street, as well as several hotel rooms at the location in Portland, South Portland, and Scarsboro. That is until many neighbors started making complaints about the strange comings and goings, I don't mean that literally, within their community. The first thing these opportunities to sell always set off the neighbors. The handwriting began to be written on the wall when neighbors started talking to one another, asking them whether what they seen made sense for this quiet, upscale community. Wouldn't make sense to you either. And if you think committing a crime of this magnitude in a better community was tenuous, then you would really have to shake your head at the U.S. status of these ladies. Now, normally when you have a prostitute problem and you're hiring these women, that's stateside. They're not somebody who comes from a foreign country. Now, many of the women DeRong recruited to work as prostitutes came to the United States on what's called B-2 non-immigrant visas, which allows foreign entry for pleasure, tourism, or medical treatment, but not to take legitimate jobs within the States, let alone jobs in the oldest profession in the world, I'm telling you. They never made B-2 visas for that. Now, the B-2 visa system in America has been misused for as long as we've had it, for people entering the United States for nefarious means or from people running from tyranny in their own countries. So whether you come for nefarious reasons or somebody is after you for political or religious reasons and you cut and run once you get here. Like I said, in both cases, some of these people disappeared to the crowd once they got here, and did not leave until they were either found out and deported. But deportation in these cases is not on the federal authorities' list to chase people. They're not pretty much worried about that. That is until you do something wrong to bring attention to yourself, or you are arrested. And ultimately, when you live in the shadows that way, your time will come around. On the day that the couple was arraigned in court, after they were arrested, Mr. Wrong entered her plea in a U.S. District Court in Portland. The prosecution's version of events to which the Wrong pleaded guilty did not say how many women worked for her as prostitutes. But they didn't need that from her because they knew the number. See, the couple rented houses on Vero Street and Brighton Avenue in Portland and in Manchester, which I said before, New Hampshire, for short periods in 2016, and authorities were well aware of the numbers. In a lot of these cases, somebody talks. One of the prostitutes, one of the Johns, if they're going to go down, they're going to take you with them, and they spoke. Now, the Wrong also moved the working women for the couple from motel to motel every few days in order to prevent detection by vice squads who watch these type of brothel patterns. So any vice squad, and they have more in most police districts, especially in the larger cities, they watch out for this. Now, the prostitution ring in its height of profiting millions advertised on internet sites including the now defunct Backpage.com, which federal authorities shut down in 2018 for these same reasons across the United States. Now, the grand jury investigation revealed the couple would hold the women in residences or hotel rooms without food, without access of outside the room so they could not leave, and without their immigration papers. So if you got a chance to leave, where would you go? Now, the madam couple employed other outside of Maine to help them advertise women, like I said, on Backpage, like they had a promotional company that did it for them, and to communicate with prostitution customers. Now, although some of the Chinese women who work for the Wrong believe when they first arrived in the United States, and you can never attract people unless you promise something great. So they believe that once they got to the United States, they could be employed outside of prostitution. Now, ultimately, they weren't able to find jobs that were paid enough to live on, in this country. If you live here, that's hard to live. Now, many also owe debts, according to indentured servitude, like the beginning of the United States, for their travel to the U.S. paid for them by their master, or the madam. Now, the women spoke very little English and had no contacts in Maine, New Hampshire, or Vermont, which left them at the mercy of the Madam Duel. But as most things done in darkness are ultimately brought to the light of day, the Madam Duel was arrested. The couple was indicted by a federal grand jury on November the 30th of 2018. They were held without bail since their arrest in December of 2018. So if you know that the legal system in this country always crawls through a slow grind. Now, the case was subsequently delayed because of its complexity and the need for Chinese translators, because these people were Chinese nationalists, and especially during the coronavirus pandemic. So Mr. Wrong, who used half a dozen aliases, pleaded guilty to conspiracy and 4 counts of transportation for purposes of prostitution. That was not a good day for her. Now, authorities sought to convict Sao Chow Lee and Wrong mainly because they lured the women they targeted into prostitution, but because they controlled their movement and kept them isolated from their family and from the public at large. In other words, welcome to America. Here's the locker room. Make sure you don't leave it. Assistant U.S. Attorney Darcy McElwee, the lead prosecutor on the case, says the couple used WeChat, and that's online WeChat, which is popular in China and similar in the States to Snapchat, to entice and in some cases coerce women to come to New England in exchange for the couple's pleas. Now, the U.S. Attorney in this case office dismissed 2 counts of sex trafficking by fraud or coercion and 1 count of transportation for purposes of prostitution at their sentencing. And they did this to get the couple to confess. And always when you offer somebody something in that situation, they will plead. Now, the couple also agreed not to appeal their sentence to the First U.S. District Court of Appeals in Boston. That is as long as if it was not longer than 4 years and 9 months. Now, the couple face up to 5 years in prison on the conspiracy charge and up to 10 years in prison on the transportation charges of bringing them from the foreign countries or United States up to where they wanted them to prostitute. Now, if DeRong had been convicted of sex trafficking charges, she would have faced between 15 years and life in prison for doing this. And most people, when they engage in being a madam for that sort of business, they know the consequences. Now, she faces a fine of up to $250,000 on all charges to which she pled guilty, although the couple made millions on these girls. Prostitution is a very lucrative business. Now, this case is still under investigation by the Portland and South Portland police departments, along with departments from the New Hampshire FBI, the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement Service, Homeland Security Investigation Division, and multiple other federal agencies. So everybody had their piece of this pie, mainly because you not only cross borders in the states that they did that, but they cross countries. Now, the couple's detention hearings were delayed once again. Their attorneys indicated they needed more time to speak to their client with an interpreter, because remember, they're Chinese nationals. Now, they will also meet with the U.S. probation officer to find out more about the couple's lives to determine if bail is appropriate. But pretty much, I think if you give them bail, if you don't take the passports, they'll be back over there in China. Now, Ms. DeRong is expected to be deported to China after she completes her prison term in the United States. So for Vice Sting, we hope to see you again soon, and not behind bars. Thank you for watching.